'Cause when the music fades and all is stripped away, and I simply come, longing just to bring something less of worth that will bless
My friends,
your
I'd like to
heart.
make 2 points for this Sunday. Not all suffering is pointless, and be grateful for the opportunities given to us. When St. Paul wrote the second letter to Timothy, he was imprisoned in Rome and bound by chains. Despite his trials, Paul was never dismayed nor despondent. He had two great consoling thoughts. First, he was sure that although he was bound, nothing could destroy his friendship with God. You can imprison a person, but you cannot imprison the truth for which they stand. Paul was certain that the Roman government could never imprison God's love. Secondly, he was certain that his experience would ultimately help others. He was prepared to suffer and die for his beliefs. His suffering was not pointless or fruitless. Our culture, my friends, encourages us to seek comfort and avoid sacrifice. However, that is not the message of the New Testament. We cannot grow spiritually if we do not sacrifice for a greater cause, the cause of Christ. And as athletes, as team members, as coaches, we cannot grow if we don't sacrifice for our teammates, for our athletes. How will we become resilient amid crisis, amid challenges, if we don't sacrifice in practice and accept criticism from our coaches, from our teammates? And we can at times be ungrateful. No story of the gospel shows humankind's ingratitude as plainly as today's gospel reading. The lepers came to Jesus with desperate longing, and he cured them, yet nine of them never came back to give thanks. So often, once a person has gotten what they want, they never come back and give thanks. One of my great joys when I go to practice, jiu-jitsu practice, is to see my fellow black belt, Scott, who is 59 years old. And often I would ask him, hey, how are you doing? And he always said to me, I'm grateful to be doing this at my age. I'm grateful to be alive. Friends, thank the Lord for the opportunity to pursue in sports, to be pushed to your physical, mental, and spiritual limits, and to become better people.
So yeah, something that about the faith that really inspires me is it just allows you to have an eternal perspective, and really when you have hardships in life, it just gives you a perspective, and you always remember that God has a plan. I think that was really tested for me the first time my senior year playing sports. So I actually my senior year playing college soccer tore my ACL in the first week of preseason and missed my entire season. And so um, that was really hard for me because I had this grand vision of how my senior year was going to go and what it was going to look like. And obviously, it didn't play out that way. But it was at a Bible study where I heard the story about the wedding at Cana and how the wine was gone. They ran out of wine, and then that allowed Jesus to work the miracle. And so the analogy there is kind of that when things go wrong in our lives, that's a way that God can perform a miracle. And actually, the wine that Jesus provided was better than the wine they had at first. And so, in a similar way, we have these grand plans that we think are going to be so great, and then when plans go awry, we start to freak out. But that's really how God works in our lives, and the plan that God has is always going to be better than our own plan. And so that really inspired me when I was going through a pretty difficult time in my life, and I think it speaks to the great hope and trust in the Lord uh, that our faith gives us, and how we can apply that in our lives. And so that's something that I, as a focused missionary now, want to share with some of the students I'm working with, because yeah, the life of an athlete can be very difficult, very stressful, very challenging. And it's with great faith in the Lord that we're able to have a really eternal perspective and see that the problems of this world are pressing, but um, we can always rely on the Lord and know that His plan is better than anything we could come up with ourselves.